Good morning. Today we will see the lesson genetics. Genetics is the branch of science that deals with the heredity. Heredity, the mechanism of transmission of characters from parent to offspring. The mechanism of transmission of characters from offspring is the genetics. The genetics word was coined by Batson. The name of the scientist is Batson. Genetics is nothing but the transmission of characters from parent to offspring, and it was coined by the scientist or named by the scientist Batson. So before going into deep into the genetics, we should know about what is gene. What is a gene? First, you should know who was the first person to discover about, or who was the first person to do experiments. Is a Gregor Johann Mendel. He was the first person, and he is called as the father of genetics. The father of genetics is the Mendel. And the contribution made by Mendel to genetics, contribution, what are the things that he made, what are the experiments made, and what is the observation he recorded, and those things are called Mendelism. Okay, he was born in the year 1822. He was born in the year 1822, and he did many experiments on the pea plant. He chose pea plant as an example, as an tool to find out the genetics, study and the heredity, inheritance. What are the things that are changing from one generation to another? What are present in that one gene and where it is present? All these things are studied by the Gregor Johann Mendel. Okay, he did many experiments. Though he did many experiments, but he was not so recognized, because he was a mathematician, and those days in 1884 the publications were not so familiar. Nowadays we are having WhatsApp. If you do anything through WhatsApp or Facebook, you can publish, you can do a publication. By doing this, you can it will reach the person very soon. But in olden days it was not so easy to pass the information. So in 1900, many more other scientists, three more scientists named Hugo de Vries, Karl Correns and Treschemark, they again rediscovered the Mendelism. Again the laws of Mendel's, the experiments of Mendel's, they again rediscovered. Okay, and it become famous now. And first of all, you should know what is a gene. So what are some terms you should know before going into the genetics? Gene is nothing but the structural and the functional unit of heredity or the inheritance. Gene, only through genes all the characters are transferred. This is called as gene, is called the structural and the functional unit of heredity. What are the things that are transferred through gene? It might be a biochemical, anatomical or behavioral traits. So what are the things you can see? Well, if your grandfather is having one thing, for example, he is having the curly hair, that curly hair is seen in the grandson. And if the grandfather has the habit of doing any behavior, that will be reflected in the son or the grandson. How? This is because of the gene. This gene is the main thing that transfers the information from one parent to offspring. Okay, and you should know about the some important terms that are used in the genetics. Okay, alleles. What do you mean by alleles? Alleles are nothing but the two forms of gene. Alleles are nothing but the two forms of gene. A gene has got two forms. The gene has got two forms. What are the two? For example, if you are taking the as Mendel took, we will take the same example. He took the tall plant. For the tall plant, the gene expressed as T and T. These are called as alleles. This is a tall plant, and the opposite to it is a dwarf. Dwarf means short. See, dwarf, small tt, and tall, capital TT. So alleles are nothing but the two forms of the gene. So tall plants, always the tall is called as the dominant one. The tall plant is called as the dominant one, and the dwarf is called as the recessive. The tall plant is called as the dominant, and the short one is the dwarf one is called as the recessive. And if you have many genes, they are called as many forms, they are called as multiple alleles. Multiple alleles mean many characters that are represented by multiple alleles. If one more thing, we are telling it this as a dominant. Dominant means both the capital T. Okay, it is a dominant. And if both are same alphabet, same capital letter, it is called as homozygous. If both are same, both the alleles, both the genes are same, they are called as homozygous. Homo means same. If both are different, for example, one capital T and one small t, it is called as heterozygous. It is called as heterozygous. If it is an both are same, it is homo. If the genes are different, they are called as heterozygous. Next we will move to phenotype. What is mean by phenotype? Phenotype is nothing but the external appearance. These are the terms you should know, but we take the note of it. First thing we have seen what is the gene, and second one alleles. What do you mean by alleles? And then homozygous, dominant, recessive, and then homozygous. Homozygous means both are same. Heterozygous means both are different. One dominant, one recessive. Okay, and next we will move to homozygous we have seen, and then next we will move to phenotype. What do you mean by phenotype? Pheno means external appearance. Looking at the external appearance, that is known as the external appearance or external makeup is called as phenotype. Genotype means genetic makeup. Genotype is nothing but the genetic makeup. Genotype is the genetic material that is present. Okay, and for example, this T and T, this represents the plant is tall. This represents the plant is tall. If it has like this, one capital and one small t, then also the plant will be tall, because dominant character is expressed either by one character. If one character is present, it is a dominant one. So the phenotype will be tall, but the genotype will be heterozygous. Okay, and then capital T and capital T, it is called as homozygous, dominant. This is homozygous dominant. If it is small t, if both are small t, it is called as, then also it is homozygous, because homozygous means what? Same. Homozygous recessive. So you should understand all the terms that before going into the topic. Homozygous means both are same. Homozygous dominant means the dominant character, tall one, is present. Homozygous recessive means the dwarf one, small t. Okay, and then if the one is capital T and the other is small t, one is capital and the other is, the plant will be tall, but it is called as heterozygous. It will be phenotypically. Phenotypically means what? Overall the plant will be seen as tall only, though the short t is present, that is suppressed by the the dominant one. The dominant t suppresses the short one. Okay, heterozygous tall. Okay, you understood? Yes. So for the plant to be short, you should have only the small t. That is enough for the plant to be short. But for the plant to be tall, you should have any one of the capital T's. Any one capital T is present, the plant will be tall. Okay, and now we'll move to the 4 major principles or disciplines that are followed in the genetics. The 4 major principles that are followed in the genetics, they are nothing but the transmission genetics. One is the transmission genetics, and the other is the transmission genetics, molecular genetics, population genetics, and quantitative genetics. These are the 4 some disciplines that are followed in the genetics. Transmission genetics is nothing but the transfer of information from parent to offspring. This is done by Mendel, and he observed this by the 7 characters in the pea plant. He observed 7 different characters in the pea plant. Based on that, the transmission genetics is made. And next one is the molecular genetics. Molecular means the genes are present in the molecular level, and population genetics is in a group of individuals, the traits are based on the few genes. Only few genes are considered in the population, whereas in quantitative genetics there are many genes are involved. For the group of individual, for the traits there are many genes are involved in quantitative genetics. The 4 major disciplines are transmission genetics, population genetics, molecular genetics and quantitative genetics. Then we should know about heredity and variation. Heredity is nothing but transfer of the gene from one parent to offspring. This transfer of characters from parent to offspring is genetics. That is heredity. That is called as heredity. Heredity means what? Something that is transferred from the parent to the offspring. That is called as heredity. And variation, you should know about variation, because heredity and variations makes up the genetics. Heredity or variations or heredity means what? That is transferred. Something has to be transferred, and variations are difference. There should be some difference. If the child is showing some other features different from the grandparent, that is known as variation. That is called as variation. There are 2 types of variations. One is called as discontinuous variation, and the other is called as the continuous variation. Discontinuous variation meaning there will be a break. See, for example, tall variety, if it is giving directly to the short one without going to the intermediate one, that is called as discontinuous. Discontinuous means what? There is a break, and it will not adapt to the environmental conditions. It is unaffected. Environmental conditions affect panalo, it is not affected. That is the continuous variation. Whereas in continuous variation, there is a complete gradation. Correctana level, correcta poite irukum. Okay, that is complete gradation there is, and it is affected by the environmental and genetic factors. That is continuous variation. So variation ala, what are the uses? Variation nadakradala, the organism, the thing that is produced, the new one produced, that is fitting to the existence, fitting to this, they are for the new surrounding, they adapt to the surrounding, they adapt to the new environment, and the new one that is produced, they give good yield, and the growth will be very easy or very quick. The growth will be very quick. The new one that is formed is that will have the new one will have the quicker, and it will yield an increase in the resistance. For example, the previous one will have might have diseases, or if it is not for example, it is not, if the rain is more or the cold is heavy, that time also it is not affected. Resistant means what? It is not at all affected by cold or any other factors. And then the raw materials, it provides the raw materials for the evolutions. Which one? The variations. Only through variations new varieties are formed. New variety, quicker yield, and then the individual to adapt the changing environment. Okay, and then that's all. So I'll recap whatever I told you with this last chapter. Genetics is nothing but the biology that deals with the study of heredity or inheritance. Okay, the father of the person who named as genetics is known as Batson, and then the father of genetics is Georg Johann Mendel. He was called the father of genetics. He did many experiments with the pea plant. The contribution made by the Mendel to genetics is called as Mendelism. He did many experiments with the pea plant. He took 7 traits, 7 different characters of the pea plant. For example, I'll tell you 2 characters. Next chapter we'll learn about the 7 characters. Okay, this is the tall and the dwarf. The color of the flower, purple and white. Like that he has chosen, and also the pod color, seed shape, seed color, all these things he has taken into account before doing the experiments. Okay, and Mendel took pea plants. Why he took pea plants is, pea plants is an annual plant. You can see many generation, and the pollination, self pollination and cross pollination is very easy. So he took pea plant, and he took mathematics to biology, and law of probability, statistics, all these things he applied to biology and did the experiments. Okay, and he observed the traits that are obtained, and larger samples, he took larger samples. Okay, that's all about the genetics. Next chapter we'll see later.